let's just remember, pickets and strikes, they're like a nice way to do things. They aren't like destroying the machinery of your work. They're not sabotage. They're not attacking any people or things. And I think, for example, if you were to legislate against strikes and pickets, I don't know, I personally think that makes other options.
Yeah, I think it's... If...
Careful!
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's just say Takeshi's Castle will be the least of your worries.
Redistribution party. Redistribution party.
Few hours. It's quite cold, actually.
Am I not okay just to squeeze in here? I've left a Snickers.
No. That's not how this works.
I just don't understand why I can't come in.
Well, firstly, this is a picket. Second, because we've already recorded most of the episode anyway.
Yeah, but we need to record the intro to the episode.
Well, why? So you can say, welcome to Mandatory Redistribution Party, my name is Sean Morley.
Yeah, and then you say, my name is Jack Lewis Evans. And then we sketch out the topic in a little vignette.
We don't need it. The topic will become clear as people listen. The picket stays.
Okay, well, we need to say the bit where we tell people that they can support the podcast on patreon.com/mandatory redistribution party, at least, at the bare minimum.
Nah, people will just share the episode on social media out of solidarity with my strike.
What strike?
We decide.
Onion.
Union, that says union.
Okay, you formed a union without me.
I formed a union against you.
I'm not getting this. What are your demands?
I don't know if this is really the venue for this, but it's mouse noise.
I'm not following you.
Like, the bulk of Amando's edit is Morley mouse noise removal. Mate, I've had enough. This is exactly what I'm talking about.
Sorry. I was just chugging a lilt.
A lilt's rare. Dying breed of pop.
So this is just you here?
So far. You could join me, I suppose.
Yeah, go on then. You got a placard?
Oh, no. It's the police, the cops.
Maybe they're here to help.
Help?
Help me, I mean.
Did you just join the union? Did you just join the picket?
What's all this? Target locked. Detaining prisoner. Oink contained.
It was peaceful.
Is that a Fanta?
No way, man. It's a lilt. Listen to this. I feel sick.
Would you ever cross a picket line?
No, it's hardwired in now. I don't know if you can like thought experiment me through a picket line of like trolley problemed, or I'm surrounded by picket lines, like everything around me is a picket, and the picketers all like it's a tragedy of the commons, where like the picketers all individually, all their campaigns are just, but they've actually got me trapped in, and I can't go anywhere without going through a picket. Even up is a picket.
Maybe you're on some sort of large wobble board, and if you fall off it, you will plummet through a picket through no choice of your own. Like so it becomes a physical challenge. Like you morally and mentally do not wish to cross the picket. However, you can't categorically say you'd never cross a picket, because what if the picket's at the bottom of a slide you're going down?
Yeah, what if it's like socialist Takeshi's Castle?
Yeah.
But if you like fall off the stepping stones or like the giant wobbling platforms, it's into a business full of scabs.
Yeah, you would cross a picket line. Here's a situation I would cross a picket line willingly. There is a business fully operational due to the labour of traitor scabs, and I am being launched at them as a weapon. They used to use catapults to break a siege. So if you were sieging a castle, everyone in the castle is eventually going to get very hungry because they'll run out of food. So what you do is you catapult a cow over the walls, and then everyone goes, there's all this beef now, but you've poisoned the beef. And then everyone eats the poisoned beef. I would be willing to be the bad beef.
Make sure you're dead from the poison first, or do you want to die from the impact?
No, I want them to think that I don't know why the scabs have got nothing else. I'm assuming management is providing them with loads of stuff like little treats, scab nip, Kinder Buenos.
You heard it here first. Kinder Buenos, the snack for scabs.
Or the entire Kinder brand. Kinder Eggs, Kinder Surprise. What's the surprise? There's no surprise. It's being eaten by a scab.
Really happy to announce we have our first anti-sponsor. All of Kinder's rivals have paid us to just slag off Kinder.
If you actually peel off, it's a rebrand that no one knows about, but they're all actually Scabba Surprise.
Yeah.
And then what they're trying to do is insist that Scabba was pronounced Scaber, like they've done with the word kinder.
Are you scabbing? Kinda.
Running union meetings where management have suggested, they've basically tried to get us to not do a picket because they're worried it will intimidate staff. Obviously, I didn't say this, but I want to say, yeah, that's the point.
Yeah, that's it. Why do you think we would do it? When the people do it, what do you think that's for?
I know pickets like to have a representation of the strike, so it isn't just your absence. It's like you're going there, so if anyone wants to talk about it, and it's to educate, and it's to be an open person to talk to members of the public or talk to other people about the strike, and it's to be a presence. And I know it is illegal to be intimidated and like wield fucking weapons or something on a picket line. However, I do think that if you are crossing a picket line and you feel bad about that, if you feel guilt, like if you are working in that workplace and you are crossing a picket line, undermining the collective action of other workers, if the strike succeeds, you will get the benefit of their sacrifice without having made the sacrifice. And you feel bad about that. You should feel bad about that. You should feel dreadful. Mm-hmm. You are bad.
And I think there is something very effective to being like, here's a door. Here's maybe 10 people. And if you go through the door, all these people will be upset. That is powerful. Yeah. That is something. Hi, our quality of life is actually dependent on you not going through that door, but in no way will we stop you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was working at a school once and we were on strike and we were on the picket and this guy worked on the premises team. Like strike law is obviously very restrictive in the UK. You can legally only have 6 people on a picket. But also people don't know. So strike law is very restrictive in the UK. However, people think that if they're in a different union and their union isn't on strike, they're like, well, I've got to go in because we've not voted for strike. However, if one union is on strike, you are legally protected the same as that union. So if you're, for example, as we record this, the NEU teachers union is on strike. However, the NAS union, what does the S stand for? I don't know.
Something.
It stands for something. They didn't vote to strike because they can't organise for shit. But they would be legally protected to strike, even though their union didn't vote to strike. So you don't have to be in the specific union that's striking. In UK law, which is very conservative. But this guy, he wasn't on teaching staff, he was on premises. And he approaches us. You do have solidarity from a lot of people who like come out and offer you a brew or whatever, but they're still...
Coming from the
building. And also they're coming from that, I think they're coming from that guilt they rightly feel. And this guy just straight up provided the number plates of everyone who had crossed the picket line via the car entry and just went, there you go.
That's great.
The fucking rot at the heart of British workers' brain of like, I don't want a picket to be intimidating. Yeah, that's what it's supposed to do. I don't want a strike. Is there a way to strike that can't it be inconvenient? Do you know what a strike is?
Yeah, I guess one way we could achieve that is just if the employers just agree now to our terms. So don't come talking to us. Literally, the power is with the other part of the negotiation. If you didn't want to have any of the disadvantages for strike, there is only one body here that can instantaneously fix that, and they've chosen not to. So don't even come to us.
People don't understand the basic purpose of what these strategies are and why they're good.
I think it's even like we're talking about the brainworm regarding how the UK perceives strikes. Isn't it mad in all of the like both sides-ism that we've been subject to regarding every major issue and minor issue of any importance? The whole like broadcasting brief is both sides. But with strikes, which is fundamentally a dispute between two bodies, you know, the employers and the workers, when it's just the strikers are at fault.
Yeah.
And we hear from what the bosses have to say.
I've seen strikes be discounted as like, oh, it's just greedy, you just want more pay. It's like, well, do you know that is the only thing you can legally strike over is your own terms and conditions since Thatcher? So you can't strike in solidarity with other workers. Well, you can't legally. You could, of course, just do it. And if enough people do it, they're fucked. But, secondary picketing is illegal. If teachers went on strike and the only thing they said they were striking on was students' learning conditions, the classic educational strike line is teachers' working conditions are students' learning conditions, which is absolutely true. But you couldn't strike just saying that, this is affecting students. You have to legally to ballot for a strike. The Thatcherite logic of your individual desire for money in your specific job is the only thing you're allowed to take action on. But that is then used as a means to undermine. It's like, oh, you don't actually care about, nurses don't actually care about patients, teachers don't actually care about students, rail workers don't actually care about the safety of passengers. Like, it's illegal it's literally, they couldn't explicitly just strike about those things. By law that the Tories wrote and Labour just kept.
Just coming back to like how everything gets framed around what the strikers ought to have done. Like, okay, the trains have been disrupted. Okay, but I'm sure there's actually less disruption caused by the strikes than are caused by the way in which the rail infrastructure is run by the people who own it.
Yes,
like,
correct.
The trains are all gone. They don't run and they're cancelled. Yeah. And they run at mismatch time. They're undermanned, and the workforce, the amount of people that are actually hired, is so few that it causes the cancellations, which is why you can't get to your job. So why would you only say you're causing disruption to the one group that has the negotiating power to try and fix that?
Yeah. The one thing that can improve it, you object to. That brain rot. Oh, the paramedics are on strike, the nurses are on strike. Think how this will affect patients. Yeah, how has private healthcare firms parasiting on the NHS and all these insane reforms, how's that fucked up people's lives and slowed down people getting the care they need? It doesn't become a concern until the strike takes place. How is academization and basically turning educational institutions into businesses? Like, how has that affected learning? How have educational reforms that focus on just retaining knowledge and regurgitating it in an exam context fucked up students' learning? Like, the slow grinding horror that is perpetuated by capital and the state on people is never newsworthy because it's just seen as this inevitable background radiation that's like as natural as rain and wind. It's just a force of nature. Whereas when workers take action, that's disruption.
And because it's perpetual and just unstoppable,
you
can't run a news article about like all the businesses are running things for profit. Bad day.
The employers seem to have an objective to lower the pay and worsen the conditions of the workers in order to improve their profits.
Exclusive.
And that's built into our system.
Sky News exclusive. The other thing that helps create this is the picketers are outside.
Yeah.
They can get like vox popped and man on the streeted.
Yeah.
Right? So like all the camera crews could be like trucking right into their face as they're just trying to hold a placard, being like, why are you doing this? And it's like, I've been here for like 4 hours and I haven't eaten, and now you want to lay out our like whole negotiation platform. Me now, you've just wandered up to me. But if you're trying to do the same with the bosses, you get the camera crew, hey, let's get the bosses. And the person who guards the door goes, oh, you're not actually allowed in here.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So we'll just bother the picketers. Okay. Thank you.
We'll bother the picketers, and then we'll cut to the studio and we'll have someone from the Institute of Economic Affairs, a Tory MP, a Labour MP, and Satan himself. So everyone knows strikes, right? Strikes is like the thing people think of with unions. Would you agree? But there's more than this, though. There's more. And let's just think about how we do it. So how would you start, Sean? How would you organise a workplace?
Presumably there's a body that is the union that's already exists, right? So I want to find out, do I have a rep? And if there's no representation, contact the main body and be like, does it got to be me? Does it got to be me then?
That's the interesting thing, isn't it? That's like a sort of interesting thing, because the union is supposed to be the workers. The union is the workers, right? But I think we're all in a bit of a brain space where we think of the union as like existing outside our workplace and a thing that we go and like ask for help. And that's certainly the context in a lot of jobs, isn't it? The union is already something that's existed probably before a lot of us were like born and exists outside, and then you like go and ask it for help. But the union really should be the workers in the workplace.
But the weird thing about a union is that like it mainly exists for like protest, protesting against conditions, protesting against bosses. But it's the only form of like protest I could think of right now that exists within the legal and business system as opposed to outside of it. It's like legally recognized. There are things you can legally do.
Well, yeah, I think that's a bit of a slippery one as well. So it's like, if you're sticking to legally recognised, a lot of the earliest victories of unions are from when they were not legally recognised.
Sure, yeah.
It's a weird thing that's happened, isn't it? Because it's like, oh, well, this is the stuff I'm protected to do. Like a strike, you're like, okay, well, if I follow these rules, if I do a secret ballot and I give my employer notice and we go on strike on this specific day, then that's a protected activity.
Yeah.
But you could still do the other stuff. You could still do a wildcat strike, technically. It would just be illegal.
But it creates this weird, like, the legalization of unions and union action is this double-edged sword, right? Because the police aren't allowed to go and break up your picket because it's legally recognized.
Yeah.
But it also means that over time you can squeeze what's legally possible smaller and smaller and smaller. And it creates this, like, disjunct in the decision-making of being like, well, we won't get bothered or harassed if we do this borderline useless thing that the degree of votes we would need are like astronomical. Like we'd need everyone who's off sick to like cast their vote and stuff. We could do that and then no one could bother us. Or we do the other thing and we risk question mark, police batons.
Wow, we're just getting sacked. Like, that's the power your employer has over you, innit? Like, yeah, it is interesting how, like, the union has been integrated. The union is the permissible form of expressing unhappiness with something in your work. But even that, there's, like, mega skepticism around from bosses in the media.
Even the thing that has been decided upon as, this is your tool, this is your method. The legal system recognizes this as a valid method for mediating workplace disputes. And then you do it. And then everyone's like, you're a monster, you're destroying the business, you've made the boss cry, my children need to learn their sums and you won't let them because you want a big fridge, how dare you?
Yeah, going on strike for a Smeg fridge, demand number one.
We want the entire teaching staff to have a separate fridge freezer for the beers.
It's weird because it's a compromise. But even the strike, which is weirdly the sort of thing that's allowed, you're allowed to do a strike in very specific circumstances for your own paying conditions, with a secret ballot, with notice to the employer, you can go on strike. But sick-ins or a good work strike or full-on sabotage. There's a lot of tools in the toolkit that are just
I love the strike action that are more like trolling. Like work to rule is always the funniest.
Yeah,
work to rule where you're like, let me just check my contract. No, it doesn't say I have to say please. But I think like go slows as well, being like, I'm doing the best I can. It's just these old joints. And you're there like typing, you're just doing data input, but you're doing like just your two fingers and you're just constantly checking back, constantly adjusting your glasses like you're a dinosaur. Also, you could just be like, just pretend you can't hear management. Everyone's got an ear infection. There's just, sorry? You've got like a big listening tube, like a foghorn thing. Excuse me?
I like dual power. And that is where, if the boss is not giving into a demand, if you've got like...
duel them.
Yeah, you slap them with a glove. It's where you just do the thing anyway. So if they are not giving into a demand, but you have employees who could make the demand happen, then you just do it.
That's great.
You just like ignore, you're like, well, we don't actually need your approval. We can just start doing this.
Yeah, we all took a vote. You voted against. We voted for.
Instead of waiting for you to go through payroll or whatever, we will just every day take our money from the till. And if everyone agrees on that except the boss, what are they going to do?
Yeah, sorry, we took a vote.
Like, obviously, that would, there's a load of things where that would be theft and you could get yourself in big trouble doing that.
Do you know what else is theft?
There's blinders on in the possibilities of it, because a lot of workplace action that isn't strike action is in the category of illegal. But if enough people do a thing, then it becomes impossible for the employer or the state to punish you for it. They'll bloody try, though. I'm not saying, don't go around thinking, oh, well, if enough of us do this, we can do whatever we want. But there is a truth to that. Well, do you know what? Let's just go through let's go through basics, step by step, organising. I've done this a bit myself. I've done it in a couple of contexts. One in retail when I was younger, and secondly, as a teaching rep. Again, the thing, coming back to what you said before, Sean, of like, oh no, is it me? Am I going to have to do this? And like getting in touch with an outside organisation. Both of the times I've done union things, I've done it with an outside organisation. However, the thing that makes the union effective is all of the stuff you do in your specific workplace. Like even when you get involved with other workplaces and other people, the most useful things you'll do externally is like the support you'll get for morale and just learning things and learning strategies and recontextualising what you're doing in your place from other workers in another place, rather than necessarily like the bureaucracy, capital T, capital B. Like, you know, myself going into negotiations or meetings with HR, you can think, you know, who the fuck am I? You know, and you get insecure about it. But your power, and anyone's power, you know, say you got like, you know, people can have confidence in an external rep coming in to like represent them or negotiate with someone because they're like, oh, this person's like an expert in this. They're a specialized professional at doing union stuff. But all of their power they have as that person sat in that meeting is the workers. Any institution that's like this, where you can organise like this, requires labour, requires workers to function. And that is the power of the union negotiator, more so than their sort of specialist magical knowledge. Anyway, before you get to that though, you got to like organise your workplace. That's the bread and butter of getting stuff done, because your power in any negotiation comes from, you know, you. By your power, I mean like you as the collective. The more people you've got in the union, the more organised they are, the more solid they are. Like if you were to take any action, you know that it's going to be solid. That's good. So step one is map your workplace. So get people's contact information, which could be a piece of piss.
Loads of workplaces just have the staff WhatsApp where they manage shifts and they talk about stuff outside of work.
A lot of it's just chatting to people one-on-one or you know, small little groups. And that could be like a little 5 minutes at a lunch break, a tiny couple, you know, it could be like 5 little conversations in a row across a month in the tea room. And if you're, as like Sean said, if you've ended up being the individual who's going to be the start of this collective thing, remember the basics of what you're doing is listening to people. 80% listening, 20% you talking, and a lot of the 20% will be just asking questions to find out what people are annoyed about. Like one of the most powerful questions you have, I mean, you got to know someone to just directly ask them this, but any version of what pissed off about, right?
No, you can't start a conversation with that if someone seems calm, though.
Yeah.
What are you pissed off about?
What are you pissed off
Sorry,
about?
I'm just having my sandwiches.
But what you want to find out is, you're trying to find out grievances, so find out what people are pissed off about. And that might be pay, but it could be a billion other things. It could be just like a particular manager is a dickhead, or the way something's done. Often there's like management are insisting something is done some way, but loads of people can clearly see a better way of doing it and are just being blanked. It could be just something like that. Just talk to people. And also you need to be a trustworthy, non-dickhead, sound individual, because the power of the union is the power of the workers together. And if you're trying to build that initially, you need to be someone people can trust. If you're a tool, that you're not going to get anything to happen. So also do this sneak mode, Metal Gear Solid. In the path of someone's radicalization, you know, you can see yourself getting radicalized at work because you're pissed off. You're pissed off about something. And when people are pissed off, they might kick off. So you might go, oh, right, I'm going to immediately try and do some leaflet, or I'm going to kick off. I'm going to like lose my shit at a manager. No, that's just going to get you labelled as a troublemaker, which you are going to be labelled as anyway. It will happen,
but you've got a window. You want to keep that window before you're absolutely tarnished.
I think when you get the troublemaker label, if you are going to remain in any kind of rep position, you know, you want to have lots and lots of workers behind you. Yeah, you don't want it to happen because you've just made a bad, silly mistake. Because you're not powerful as an individual. Employers are way more powerful than individual employees, hence union. The power of workers is collective. So just remember that in your individual behavior, that you are working towards collective action, not you doing some like big speech or making some raged leaflet yourself. Basically what you're doing here in this first stage is mapping your workplace, physically mapping it, like the actual geography of the place. Where do the different people work? How do different departments interact? And then you're also socially mapping it, who's mates with who, and then all the stuff that happens where who is Bezzy mates with the boss, who is the boss's nephew. These are things to be aware of, and also things better to find out through your individual chats. What you're not looking for here, again, common mistake, is you're not looking for people who are like, this person seems a communist. That's not what you're doing. Because someone could be giving off big Tory vibes, or they might just be like a small C conservative, but they could actually be a really, really good organizer. They could be better than you being a rep or something, but you wouldn't stumble across them because you write them off because of what you perceive their political ideology to be. And then equally, you can have people who, let's say, talk the talk, but do not walk the walk through either lack of will or incompetence. And also, even if someone is quite Tory in their sort of general vibe, they might even vote Tory, they are still in this context a worker and want their job to be better.
It helps like if you just if you score a win on anything, like it appeals to something a bit more fundamental than anyone's like broader social ideology of like the thing I do every day could be that little bit better. And if they can see that that's possible, because presumably the thing you want to watch out for is like you got to bring whatever the action is to the concerns that you're hearing about when you're talking to people.
Yes.
You can't
80-20.
come to it with this like, I've got this big idea of we'll make this union and here's what we'll do first and here's what we'll do second.
No.
It's like, well, no, you have to know what everyone's bothered about. And if you could score any win, even if it's something that you do not care about or doesn't even affect your department, if you score that win, you've got people who are like, oh,
this works.
You're not trying to convince people of an ideology. You're just trying to convince people of like causation.
Yeah,
if you do this other thing will happen. They go, yeah, I guess it does.
Like if you can just show that the union works. And then equally, there's a problem. I'm saying this 80-20 thing of listening to people and bring out people's grievances. You might talk to someone and find out their main grievance is that they are just racist. That's the thing that could happen.
Don't fold that in, okay? Don't fold that in.
But what you want to do is just be like, okay, in your notes, which again, don't put this in some Google Doc that's going to get leaked, right? But you could record it somewhere, and then you'll have an idea of, okay, well, this person, they've got some problematic ideas that we'll need to challenge. Currently a bad egg.
And then there's that whole thing of like, well, they say it's because of immigration and blah, 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 this demographic. And then there's this temptation to be like, well, they say that, but maybe their anxieties are actually caused by this material thing. And I'll sort of count it as that. And then you solve that material thing and they're like, no, I'm just a racist. I'm just, those things will never bother me. I hate people who aren't like me.
And in your one-to-one conversations, you are not talking about fucking communism or leftism or socialism or Lenin or Jeremy Corbyn or any of that shit. Anything, go really individual. Go to the workplace and specific workplace grievances. And then you can have those chats. Again, 80-20 ratio, listening, 20% you talking, and a lot of that talking will be questions, and try to guide people. You can guide people to, heavily leftist conclusions. So if you're like, so you're unhappy about pay. Why do you think they're not paying us that much? Oh, well, is it because they want to make more money from what we're doing? Yeah. And then you can
say anything for sure. But.
Yeah, and then you can do follow-up questions, and you can take people from the little individual things to the big general things, and you can use workplace organising as a foundation for other stuff, but start with the small stuff and the priorities, the small stuff, because that's the thing everyone in the workplace has got in common. Everyone in the workplace has in common that they have shared grievances. They all work at that workplace, and their power is collective in through organising on those workplace grievances. So don't go big brain.
Yeah, don't go abstract, right? This is such a practical thing.
Yeah.
Someone's now you have to be actively bleeding through your eyes to take a day off work. Doing that shit. We don't need to read any books from the 1950s. just a bit of not the best use of your time.
No. The way I'm talking about organising here is in a workplace in general, and I guess we're talking under this umbrella of unions, but I'm talking about this in general. So, for example, in a teaching context, there is like the teachers union, but there are a lot of people who work in educational institutions that are not teachers. There are cleaners who are more often than not now working for an outside agency so there's another layer there of like, they're not directly employed by the school. They are employed by an agency that the school is paying. And then there's probably like premises or estate staff who like fix stuff and keep the building working. And then there's probably the IT department, HR. I think you're probably not going to radicalize.
It's just not doable. Just Mordor. It's just something you've got to get through. It's not something you can improve.
But there's a lot of different things, and you know, technically in some workplaces, it's like, because of the way, again, if we're thinking about unions as these external things rather than the workers in a workplace, we're thinking of like the teachers union. Then you're like, oh, well, this person can't be in my union. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be organising with them. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean they shouldn't be part of this mapping process and this idea of like physically mapping and socially mapping your workplace. Because every educational institution I've worked in, there's been someone who always, might go around like delivering mail, right? And then they might not be like a teacher person, but you want to know them because they're a really useful person to know and have a good relationship with, because they'll see everyone. Because if they're taking post around everywhere every day, they're talking to way more people than you are. If they're on board, that's going to be way more useful than them being against you or being apathetic, right? A lot of the stuff you can do organising wise, obviously there's these national things, you know, like the teacher strike or whatever, but a lot of the organising in a workplace can be done in that workplace informally without saying we're a union. And it can be done alongside you being in the, you know, the union or whatever. But the type of organising I'm talking about is just like, is organising your workplace, organising together and being aware of what people are pissed off about, who's sound, who's solid, who might be a problem, and knowing that and having it in your head and, you know, maybe recorded on paper or digitally somewhere, but just don't get that. It wouldn't be ideal if that got sent out, especially if you like, especially if you have got that thing of like the person, well, you've noted down that Paul's a racist. It's like, well, yes, Paul is a racist. That's why I wrote that down. But
I just like to map things.
Yeah,
I don't remember names very well, so I write them all down. But then I go, well, whose name is that? I think that's the racist. That's the racist guy's name. It's more of a memory aid. The hammer and sickle, I have to get those from Wix on the way home.
But and also, you know, so there's stuff like, you know, person who might be sending the post around, but also someone who is just a generally popular person. So someone who is popular or someone who people might go to with their problems, that's a useful person to have on side. Because all of this is, what I'm talking about is like you as an individual are like starting the ball rolling on a thing, but you want it to be it's not about you. You need to you are like one part of a larger thing. So a lot of this organising, you want to be sharing between people. So this mapping process should be done collectively. Like if you can get a few people and you're like, okay, well, there's those people who work in this building, but I mainly work in this building. Who's the person in that building that can do this mapping for that building with you? And then you can work together. So mapping, that's the first thing. And do this sneaky. Do this on the sneaky sneak. Lots of one-to-one conversations. And you do this for a long time before you start doing anything like having a big meeting. And then in that meeting, you're probably not going to get everyone, but that's where you want to start getting, has anyone got any other ideas about this? Is there any way we can expand this or get more detail of it? So knowing the people you're organising with and what their issues are and what everyone's strengths and weaknesses are is really, really important. Then start organising, start working out, right, what are people's jobs going to be? What are people kind of interested in and good at within union organising? If you are going to make a leaflet, is there someone who is...
Can anyone do graphic design?
Yeah,
just need graphic design. No clip art.
Or is someone good? Is someone better at one-to-one conversations? Is someone better at having a one-to-one conversation with someone else? Well, or for example, are loads of the cleaners who are agency staff, are they... like foreign workers and you aren't, and their first language is different than yours? Is there someone whose first language, is there someone who can talk to them in their first language rather than you just like having a really awkward clunky convo?
There's a lot of low paid foreign workers in so many industries, and even just to write something down that's like going to be passed around but making sure it's in the relevant languages, that is a massive undertaking.
In your first meeting, what you don't want is that thinking of the union as an external thing I think there can be a bit of a jarring thing between like the union and just organising your workplace in general. Having a workers' meeting where there's people there who are from the different categories of worker who may have separate unions. You know, so there might be workers in an educational context who might be NEU workers, and the workers who might be more Unite as their union. That it is a good thing for you to have a meeting together and talk about things specific to your workplace, and try to give everyone a job. So rather than this being a thing where either a talking shop where you're just talking, no, try to avoid that, or a thing where it's like you're reporting something the external union has told you to share with everyone.
Yeah.
Make it about, right, what are we doing together? Because that is the power of a union. That's the power of workers, is organising together and go, right, what steps can we take? Okay, we haven't got on our contact list a phone number for these people. You work near them. Could you have a chat with them this week? And then next time we have a meeting, we can add them to the list. You know, give everyone a little job. And then the next meeting you have, everyone's had a little win, right? They're coming with their little success. And everyone also realizes, this is me, this is us together.
Yeah.
You know, gives people ownership of it rather than the traditional. And again, this is why I'm drawing a little bit of a distinction between workplace organising and being in a union. So loads of the ways like unions recruit people is these are the union benefits list leaflet. We've got a special offer with Santander.
And you can access these things.
Yeah.
And then you contact us if you have a problem. We don't necessarily know anyone who works where you work, but we are a big body with some resources.
And then just keep doing the one-to-one conversations and do this through and just work out, what people's grievances are, what people are pissed off about, and either go get a bundle of them, or if it's a single issue that you think, okay, lots of people have mentioned this one thing, and then try and do something about that. And again, this doesn't mean strike action. It could just mean going, right, at that point, eventually they're going to find out you've done this.
Yeah.
And everyone's pissed off about a thing, and then just do a collective letter where you're like, we think the way this is being done currently is bad. We think it should be done this way, and we think this change should be made by this date, the undersigned. And normally that will make an employer go, oh.
Yeah. Because if they've never had this before, that genuinely can be like, here comes trouble. Just give them the thing.
Everything I've said there, like this, I haven't talked about strikes, but having an organised workplace. And then if a specific thing happens, like if there is, so one of the things I dealt with was a fucking shit absence policy. If you organise people, if loads and loads of people are pissed off about a thing, and then you organise people against that thing, management are more than likely to change it if you get them rattled.
Especially if you've got a lot of people and the change is so specific. We just want this one thing to be changed. Often it's going to be more resources to fight it than it is just to revert one bad decision.
We at Mandos think strikes are good, actually. The strike is the workers' hammer. Right now in the UK, workers across numerous industries are taking strike action. But is it enough? Could the strikes be more effective if they were sustained rather than 1 or 2 days a month? Could the strikes be even more effective if industries organised their strikes to land on the same days? Might the bosses relent sooner if the workers' hammer swung against him was one massive hammer and it kept swinging till he gave up and said,
"No, stop hitting me with a hammer."
This, friends, is the general strike. In her 1906 book, The Mass Strike, revolutionary and theorist Rosa Luxemburg explored the role of the mass strike in revolutionary struggle. I'm going to try and sum up her argument here. Firstly, the mass strike is a natural, spontaneous form of struggle that arises from the working class itself. Secondly, the mass strike is not just a tactic for achieving immediate economic demands, but also a way to challenge the social and political order, and ultimately to achieve a revolutionary transformation of society. Finally, the mass strike is not without its risks and limitations and requires careful organisation and prep, as well as political clarity and strategic vision. Luxemburg sees the mass strike as a dynamic, democratic and creative form of struggle that can challenge existing power relations and open new possibilities for social change. And mass strikes have brought about significant change. Luxemburg was writing in response to the 1905 revolution in Russia, which emerged from mass strikes and forced the Tsar to establish an elected legislature and legalise trade unions. Mass strikes in France in 1936 welcomed the electoral victory of the Popular Front and helped guarantee concessions to workers. Mass strikes in Portugal between 1974 and 75 helped overthrow the fascist government there. All of these had limits, but they are examples of mass strikes achieving something beyond specific workers' pay and conditions. So, big strike, big success, right? Well, let me introduce you to the General Strike of 1926, the biggest mass strike in UK history. The strike lasted for 9 days, from the 3rd of May to the 12th of May. The strike was called by the Trades Union Congress in support of coal miners facing wage cuts and longer working hours. The leaders of the Labour Party at the time, which despite representing many unions prioritised its electoral ambitions, were reluctant to support the strike, afraid it could go beyond the miners' economic demands and become a political struggle, just like Luxembourg wrote about in 1906. The Labour Party wanted to be the avenue of working class politics and wanted their method of getting seats in the House of Commons to be vindicated. And if strikes could bring about political change, that'd be a problem. So the general strike began at midnight on the 3rd of May, with workers from a range of industries walking out in solidarity with the miners. The strike was solid and brought the country to a near standstill. Against the workers' courage and determination, the ruling class responded with ruthless force, using the police and the army to break up picket lines and intimidate strikers. The government, led by Conservative Prime Minister Stanley Baldwin, declared the strike illegal and mobilised all the resources at its disposal to defeat it. The reactionary press, controlled by the capitalist class and one personally controlled by the Chancellor Winston Churchill, vilified the strikes as revolutionaries and agitators in a crude attempt to divide and conquer the working class. However, despite the oppressive actions of the state, the workers showed incredible resilience and solidarity, refusing to be cowed by the state's attempts to crush their movement. According to numerous sources, from TUC reports, Cabinet Intelligence Bulletins and the Ministry of Labour, the strike was solid and gaining strength day by day. Workers' defence corps were spontaneously organised to shield picket lines from police assault. Over 400 grassroots councils of action sprang up to protect vulnerable individuals and run essential services. And there were more strikes day by day. The strike was getting stronger. Then, after 9 days, on the 12th of May 1926, as the strike was growing in power, the TUC called it off, and the rank and file did what they were told, except the miners. Now alone, the MFGB continued their strike for months before returning to work after basically being starved, with longer working hours and lower pay. Victorious, the state soon acted to prevent further mass strikes, passing the Trades Disputes and Trade Unions Act of 1927, which banned sympathy strikes, general strikes and mass picketing. So why did this general strike fail? Total lack of leadership and strategy from the TUC. The trade union leaders lacked faith in the strike and only went along with it to prevent the rank and file directing it themselves. They called off the strike after 9 days, but were in secret talks with the government trying to stop the strike from the 4th day. They were trying to stop the strike from a position of strength. The TUC had taken leadership of a strike they didn't want to happen. Labour politician and TUC General Council member J.R. Kleins wrote in his memoirs,
No general strike was ever planned or seriously planned as an act of trade union policy. I told my union in April that such a strike would be a national disaster. We were against the stoppage, not in favour of it.
In the run-up to the strike, the TUC Special Industrial Committee had warned trade unionists not to be influenced by
unauthorised and unofficial suggestions which were being made in many quarters regarding the mining problem.
They could have been planning for months. They knew it was on the cards. The government knew it was on the cards, but they hadn't. And you can see how this manifested. For example, at the start of the strike, the workers could have had effective control of the food supply and leveraged this for their political, social and economic goals. Controlling the food supply has massive strategic value, but they were not willing to exercise it to those ends, with the TUC leader writing to the Prime Minister before the strike even began to reassure them they wouldn't interfere. Obviously, ceding control of food weakens the strike, but it also has other problems. Writing about the abuse of food transport permits in Liverpool, Merseyside Council of Action strike bulletin stated,
Permits issued are being abused and vans labelled food only are being used to transport blacklegs, metal and machinery.
Trucks full of scabs pretending to be potatoes. The TUC also imposed control from above by deciding to organise the strike in waves. The strike was solid and there was willingness to go all out at the same time. But despite this being called a general strike, like I'm literally calling it a general strike now, it kind of wasn't. Different workers were out on different days. Whole industries like textiles and the postal service had voted solidly for action and the TUC didn't call them out. The government and the ruling class were rattled even at this half measure, this wave system. So think what could have been achieved with some actual will. The TUC also issued orders without any concrete plan. Because they'd refused to plan for a general strike, they deferred a lot of the practicalities to local organisations or individual unions who also had no plan. For example, the TUC decided light and power should be separate waves. The Electricians Union in the London district tried to point out that it was impossible to separate power and light and demanded all members of the union in power stations go on strike. To be fair, the TUC did accept this and their response was to decide neither sector should go on strike. So the general strike of 1926 failed, the biggest strike in UK history. It was a moment of great strength and unity among the working class, but ultimately failed because the bureaucratic Labour leadership lacked the will or strategy to create the kind of mass strike described by Rosa Luxemburg. The workers' own leaders threw the miners under the bus. The state was ruthless and single-minded in its preparation for the strike and in undermining it once it began. But the strike they'd feared wasn't what the TUC had in mind. The general strike in 1926 never transformed from basic economic objectives to the social and political transformation that a mass strike could achieve, and it's important to remember the type of people who are happy about that. Beatrice Webb, who interestingly coined the term collective bargaining and also founded the Fabians, wrote that it was good the general strike failed because
Parliamentary Labour Party will again dominate the situation. After the unconditional surrender, there was despair of industrial action. To this has been added renewed hopes in salvation through the ballot box.
Obviously, workplace organising is hell and has become further hellified since the 80s. Like, there's all these graphs, and you can see it with like Reagan and Thatcher in America, where union membership, for various reasons, union membership declines, but also like the power of unions in many ways declines, and their status and their role on a national level. And you can just see like real terms pay go, and then corporate profits go whoop, like the same, like it's almost as if the union membership thing was having some balancing effect on capital. Union membership overall in the UK has declined massively since Thatcher. That's for a number of reasons. The laws Thatcher passed are a more restrictive framework for union activity, as well as like shifts in the economy towards service and white collar work. You know, service work does not have to not be unionized. You can obviously unionize and organize in these contexts. Cultural attitudes, changes towards unions. I think individualism, right? Individualism is a hard thing to meld with workplace organizing.
And solidarity in general, really.
Yeah. And then, but also the casualization of workers and the increase in jobs. You know, it's not just moving into quote unquote white collar work. A lot of people are like freelancers and they are self-employed and they are their own boss. So it's very difficult for you to organize. And I guess I've experienced both, because I've experienced like the public sector teaching, which is a very like traditionally remains quite an organized part of the economy, because the way work happens is still very similar and the way a strike can have an effect is still very similar. Retail, which I'm aware is, you know, way less organized than it could be. I've organized in that context, but then I've worked in comedy, or just the comedy industry in general, and my God, we have no hope.
But there's also jobs which feel completely like jobs. But when you read your contract and stuff, you're like, oh, I'm self-employed. I'm, I'm not an employee of anything. I just work for myself, but I have a boss. I have to go to a specific place. Yeah. I have these shifts I need to turn up to. But I'm just a freelancer. I just do what I like. I've never done like union organizing because I think for a lot of my 20s, I had 4 jobs a lot of the time. Like I think I was a member of Unison for a while when I worked for a charity for a number of years. But I only worked part-time, and I was doing comedy in the evenings, and I had another job with another charity on 0 hours. Doing a lot of 0 hours thing was you have to go through training.
Yeah.
And then only when you've completed all the training and the induction, then you're eligible to get hired on for work, and it doesn't come. But also they're wasting a bit of time training you as well. It just doesn't seem, who's that working for? I wouldn't know how I could possibly organise effectively when I'm juggling that many roles. And also roles where I don't really know my colleagues really very well. Even in comedy, you can build loads of relationships, and then you can build a really good relationship with someone who you don't see for several months because they're off doing something else. Yeah. And also comedy in particular, a lot of arts jobs, you have a project that you're doing, but then that splinters and you get other offers of work. The problem with freelancing is you just go to whatever seems sensible at the time, whatever's lucrative, whatever has a funding bid, or whoever's offering some money right now, something new has just started up, go and do this. And it shifts your focus and attention, and also the people you're working with, just off at some like 90 degrees angle. And you're over here now. So whatever grievances I had before, well, I have new ones, but I won't be here long enough to work out what they are or resolve them. And then I'm off and gone. And this is one of the major problems for the tactics of 20th century labour organising. Yeah. Because the structure of labour now looks like, less of an ant colony and more of an ant colony when you've just poured boiling water on it and everyone's off in exodus looking for their own little leaves and dying.
It's fucked up. So it's lots of levels as well. So there's the whole like quasi self-employment thing of, Uber drivers or Amazon delivery drivers or people who are like self-employed, but they're not really self-employed. they clearly have an employer, but their work is structured in a way to make it seem like it's not, partly to, well, not partly, to exploit them more. And then even in workplaces, there's loads of anti-union stuff in place, like loads of the things that are, Amazon's notorious for having all these targets for workers in their fulfillment centers.
Fulfillment centers, yeah. The no piss depot.
Yeah. And it's a lot of it's about productivity, but a lot of it's also about preventing worker organization. So a lot of the things I was talking about, like having a one-to-one conversation, you can't have that if you're on the piss clock.
Yeah.
You can't have that one-to-one conversation. You can't, the sort of informal groups that would emerge, team projects and stuff, don't work. You're kept like isolated or even competing against each other to meet targets. And if you don't meet that target, you're not going to get some bonus that would bring your pay to slightly near a living wage or whatever. Fast food restaurants, again, it's difficult if the intensity of the work makes it difficult to organize. So the things that are designed to increase profit and increase the exploitation, sometimes by design, sometimes just de facto anti-union measures. Just the way the economy, it's like evolved, but also devolved. It's like the model of capitalism and the model of organizing into capitalism is still in people's heads like the factory. And globally, there's still a fuckload of factories, but there's a lot of work that is just transient, like it's a project you're on for a couple of months and then you're not, or doing it, or even doing it remotely. Like work from home, which has loads of advantages for many people, is also big disadvantage for organizing. But that is something that's a default to a lot of work. So the I mean, Christ, the downsides of quote unquote office banter are, we need not go into. Everyone knows what these are. However, there's pros to that for organisers, which is very difficult to be like, can I just jump on a Zoom chat with you?
Yeah.
I know
weird. We only work together and we only talk to pass files between each other. But do you want to just jump on a Zoom chat? Yeah. So I won't tell you what it's about. But look, you just open up a window and be like, why are you pissed off?
But loads of work in the arts is just like that anyway. You might meet up to shoot something or record something or to perform something on like a day. But loads of the work before and after it is just like completely separate.
There's a kind of soft feedback in that when you are freelancing and you are in a position where you can pick your work, you just veer away from the stuff that's shit. But that means that the employers, or however you want to call them, right, they're not actually getting feedback on why no one's working with them because they're not receiving a letter, right? They're not being like, this policy and this policy and this pay and this condition you've got, they're the reason I'm not working with you. No. It's freelance work. Everyone's smiling. Everyone's very gracious. No, I can't make it. I'm very busy at the moment. I can't do that project now. So they're never getting the social pressure to like overturn whatever it is they're doing that makes their proposition more shitty.
Yeah, it's not only are they not getting the strike, because you can't organise a strike in that context, they're not even getting the level 1 letter of grievance signed by a bunch of
they're
people.
not getting any sensation that there's grievance in the world with them because I'm onto better stuff now, don't want to work with this dickhead, but it's the sun's shining right now, but I might be back in that dickhead's court in a few months. I don't want to send them a letter of grievance. One thing I think about with a lot of these like hyper individualized servicey jobs is that they often are ones that deals with members of the public.
Yes.
And so you're seeing like the rise of like not even boycotts, but just members of the public sort of having a go at a business on like their Facebook page, or just making it like clear that they're not going to shop there in future. I think of like, you ever had it where you're trying to tip a server or somewhere, and they've just let you know, oh yeah, if you do that, it doesn't actually go to me, it goes to the manager. And you're like, oh fucking hell. Yeah. And then like that, and then I've gone into a similar place in future and be like, sorry, how do I give a tip here? So I know that you've got this policy. How do I give a tip to the server? And you can say it to like management, and then getting this indirect feedback via the public. And I think in places where you have, like I remember a really early episode we did with Stacey Clare talking about sex work unions and stuff. In the show that was about that, a lot of people who were like strip club attendees were there in solidarity, which I've confounded a lot of my prejudices about strip club middle-aged men, for them to be like, I really want your conditions to be good when you're like getting your tits out. I was like, well, I guess it takes all sorts. But, I guess that's an industry where you build very good relationships,
Oh, yeah.
between the service and the customer. And they can be like, if you guys are going on strike, then I'm going to support you in it, and I won't. I as the customer ain't going to scab on it.
The spin on stuff is often worker versus the public, because they don't want to make it seem like worker versus management. So it's always how's the strike affecting the punters? But if punters are engaged, would you like someone to scab on you? No, you wouldn't, would you? So a lot of people, that is their moral metric of, I wouldn't like someone to do that to me.
So you get these kind of informal social protests, and they're often really isolated or really pocketed just against some shitty restaurant, and enough people know someone who worked there. Someone did a story on social media and it got shared around.
Yeah.
And then they have to revert that. It's not reliable, and the really sad thing is that it has to navigate the algorithm often to make anything happen. But a lot of places fold more quickly to public pressure because a lot of places are reliant on selling to the public.
But it's hard, isn't it? I've successfully organised in workplaces where there's already a way to do it, but in these new ways of working, which again, a lot of them are not new. They're things that were in the 1800s, which says a lot that they're re-emerging. What is that Marx thing? The working class are the gravediggers of capitalism or something?
Something like that.
Something like that. And that is about how the nature of capital, so the capitalist exploitation, and the way capital brings people together in order to make a profit. It doesn't have to be in a factory, because the sort of service work, fast food restaurant, fulfillment centers we've already spoken about, they're very similar to the sort of factory of Marx's imagining in the 1800s. These weird little self-employed things where there's the one, and I'm talking about both of them, the ones where you're technically self-employed, you're self-employed on a technicality, but really you're an employee, and the ones where you are self-employed. That undermines the collective identity that's really important to working class organising. And you are literally and psychologically isolated. You're alone, you're atomized, and that is the opposite of what can make working class organisation successful. It's you're fragmented, and you're not just fragmented and isolated, you are insecure. As an individual, it's way harder for you to kick off at an employer, because also your employer isn't your employer that you have a contract with. That every employer you have is also a potential future employer. So every interaction is like a job application.
Yeah.
And you can't put your grievances in a job application.
Yes. Right after your little skills, proficient in the Adobe Creative Suite. By the way, your leave of absence policy makes me sick. I work well in a team and also on my own.
So I think, and people are doing that work, people are trying to organise in these contexts, but there's a lot of the economy where that is difficult. And that's even aside, and that's just the nature of the economy. Well, it's not just the nature of the economy, it's the nature of the economy has been brought about by the people who are able to control the economy and the structures that influence the economy. There's all the anti-union stuff that's literal legislation, and stuff that's been done intentionally by companies. So there's companies intentionally recategorizing people as freelancers or self-employed when really they're employees. And there's the state which has made it so you can't do solidarity strikes. But also just the economy, there's just this force that's making stuff harder, but also more necessary. Because if you're being more exploited, it's you need organisation more than ever, right?
But that's what it comes down to, is the union legislation that we do have is just a holdover from a whole different time in history that just hasn't been eradicated yet. So all the future stuff that's going to be needed to do to deal with any of it, but still using the same ideas of collective action, solidarity with one another. It's going to be extra legal, right? It's not going to be based on the current legal framework. It's just going to be protests that are done ad hoc to requirement.
Yeah.
Because you cannot there is no union action that you can reasonably take between you, some workers who work in the pub down the road, and the Deliveroo driver, and it's just our union is just the people who live in this street and then round the corner. That's it. Yeah, Station Road Union. We're not going to take it anymore.
I mean, I think the greatest victories of the working class have not come from playing by the established rules of the ruling class and asking them pretty please.
Please, boss. Just give me a day off. I've got double COVID.
Please, can I have maternity leave?
My laptop's broken. Could you email HR and say, even though the king has requested 17 bushels of wheat, we've had a very poor harvest.
Please, Tsar Nicholas II, can you please step down? Oh, actually, that doesn't work because he did abdicate voluntarily when asked to on the train.
Yeah,
Although
sometimes you can say please. Sometimes you can say please. Say please first, I guess.
As long as you are the Russian military command and the Tsar's own government, then you could maybe say please.
Yeah. Is that you? Get in touch.
Mandatory Redistribution Party was created and produced by Sean Morley and Jack Lewis Evans. Our title theme was created by Ella Jean with additional music from Jack Lewis Evans. Thank you for listening to Mandos, and special thanks to those of you who support our work by sharing this episode on social media or supporting us at patreon.com/mandatory redistribution party, where you can access bonus content. Support striking workers. Never cross a picket.